Parshat Balak. This is perhaps the greatest flight of fancy in all of Torah. Shabbos Judith. The greatest flight of fancy in all of Torah, Parshat Balak, in which the king of Moab, Balak, according to Midrash, a magic bird whispers into his ear the prophecy that these people need to be dealt with. In the same way that the ancient Pharaoh saw that we were too numerous, Balak gets concerned as well after seeing what we did to the neighboring kings and countries, with God's help, of course. Now, Balak, he is one of, if not the greatest sorcerer as well of kings of his time. And yet, he still needs to send out his prophet Balaam, prophet for hire in those days, and to what he says, curse the Israelites, all right? And so the question that arises is, why does he need Balaam, this prophet, to go and curse the Israelites when he could very well do it himself? Well, another teaching says that, well, just like Moshe, just like Moses, our teacher, had a speech impediment, so did Balak. So he would be unable to do this. And so a spokesperson would be needed for Balak in the same way that Moshe needed his brother Aaron to be his spokesperson before Pharaoh. Well, hopefully you've been keeping up with As the Torah Turns, and you knows what happened in this week's Parsha. Balak sends Balaam out 3 times. He attempts to curse the Israelites. Apparently it's not in the right place and the right time for it to happen, until finally, this is what we read in today's Torah portion. Vayisha Balaam et einav, vayar et Yisrael shochen lishvatav, v'tehi alav ruach Elohim. And Balaam, he looked up, and he saw Israel, vayar et Yisrael, encamped tribe by tribe. And then the Ruach Elohim came upon him. He could no longer curse the Israelites. Instead, what did he say? And let us sing. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishchenotecha Yisrael. How fair are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling, O Israel. And so, sometimes to understand what's going on in this week's Parsha, we need to take a look back on last week's Parsha. So this is how last week's Parshat Chukat ends. V'yisa'u v'nei Yisrael, v'yachanu ba'arvot Moav, me'ever li'Yarden Yericho. The Israelites then marched on and encamped in the steppes of Moab, across the Jordan from Jericho. That is the very last line from last week's Parsha, which leads us to the first line of this week's Parsha. Vayar Balak ben Sipor et kol asher asa Yisrael le'emori. Balak, the son of Tzipor, saw. So Vayar Balak is Balak saw. But we kind of, in order to make the English a little bit more appetizing, Balak, son of Zippor, saw. What did he see? Well, that's what we're going to be venturing into this morning. Now, there's the Peshat, there's a simple understanding of what he saw, and then, of course, there is a deeper sod, a deeper secret to what he saw. You can notice that in red, Ben Tzipor, right? Each of us has a name. I am Moshe ben Avraham va'osnat, including my mother's name. So Balak is Ben Tzipor. But what else? Scott Ryder, what does Tzipor mean?
Bird.
It means bird. That's right. And there is yet another wonderful midrash that I had mentioned before, that there was a bird constructed of gold, silver, and copper. don't listen to this part too closely, with the tongue of a live bird that was set aside after building it for several weeks in order for it kind of like to stew, to prepare itself for prophecy. Is this fantastic? And the bird would be used by Balak to help him to foresee the future. I wish I had a bird like that, especially for the stock market. Well, Moab was alarmed. Vayagar Moab mipnei ha'am ma'od ki ravhu. So why was all of Moab alarmed? Because of the Israelites? Like I said again, the people were so numerous. An echo back to Pharaoh, looking out and seeing that the people of Israel, when we were in Egypt, so numerous that we were a threat to him. And Moab dreaded the Israelites. Vayar Balak. Balak saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. Let's take a little dive into some commentary. First of all, Rashi, from the 11th century, he, Balak, said to his people, those two kings, Sichon and Og, on whom we relied, they couldn't resist them. How much less can we do so? So those are the names of the two kings that the Israelites that we overcame in the desert. And so Balak saw what had happened. He's no dope. He needs to make plans. Let's take a look now at Sforno, 16th century. A man who was famous as well schooled in the art of warfare saw what had happened to Sichon. So this is referring, of course, to Balak. He was schooled in the art of warfare. He saw what happened to another king who had refused to let the Israelites pass through his land and paid for his error with the loss of his life and his kingdom. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. Vayisa Bilam et Inav. Vayar et Yisrael. He looked up and saw Israel encamped tribe by tribe, and the Ruach Elohim came upon him. Look at the illustration. If you look at the illustration closely, you will notice that this is a wonderful representation, according to commentary, of how the tents were set up. There is no tent whose open flap is facing another tent. In other words, each tent is situated in such a way to accord each family privacy. In Bava Batra, in the Masechet from the Talmud, what was it that Bilam saw that so inspired him, right? Because not only did Balak see, but Bilam looked out and saw. He saw, according to the Gemara, that the entrances of their tents were not aligned with each other, ensuring each family a measure of privacy. And he said, Bilam said, if this is the case, these people are worthy of having the divine presence, the Shekhinah, rest upon them. Beautiful. So here again is what Bilam saw when he looked out on our tents. Now, here comes the really fun part. Well, first of all, though, I need to explain what the word pilpul means. Pilpul is a method of applying one's learning, okay? So you're all familiar with, in a yeshiva, for example, or even in any chavruta, when two people are sitting opposite each other and they're going at it, right? In their unpacking their understanding of what the commentators want us to understand about the line of Talmud that they're reading, right? Or the Gemara, of course. Talmudic critical analysis and hair splitting, okay? So they're getting into the deepest, smallest pieces of taking apart and putting back together. The sages used pilpul to formulate legal decisions, understand legal ideas, texts, and interpretations, sharp analysis to arrive at a shared understanding. So you got two people opposite each other, many times with their own understandings of what the text is offering us, seeking to come to a common understanding by collaboration It is a cooperative venture which merits the Shekhinah, the divine presence, to rest upon them. Oy, 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 if only today's political discourse was based upon collaboration instead of individual desire to win. It is a cooperative venture. Oh, there goes those tents again. The Baal Shem Tov teaches, 18th century, for the best, the tent opening is equal to a person's mouth. So the Baal Shem Tov, as all Hasidic teaching tends to do, it plays with words, it plays with ideas, it sees things with moachin de gadlut, in a much greater expansiveness of possibilities, not only on the simplest level of the tents with the openings are now facing each other, but that the open of the tents are just like our mouths. And he teaches that what comes out of a person's mouth, what comes out of it should be an attempt to invite the divine presence to reside in us all. In other words, when we speak, we should be seeking collaboration, a common understanding of what we are seeking together. There's a lovely new book by Rabbi Mark Asher Goodman. It's called Life Lessons from Recently Dead Rabbis. It's a wonderfully available, accessible window into Chassidut, into Hasidic thought. And I'm going to read you just a little bit from here. This is done, this kind of conversing, pilpul, through words that attempt to arrive at a truth with a capital T, but without doing so in a manner that spikes the proverbial football in an opponent's face, right? So if this was a football game, all of the political parties and all of the individuals, or many of them anyway, would draw a flag every time they say something that causes friction and is not intended to lift us up, but rather to pull us down. This is not a competition, Rabbi Mark says. There is no opponent in the quest to seek truth. The winners are those who cooperate and collaborate toward the higher source. Only in that instance does the Shekhinah, the divine presence, reside within us. On this Shabbos morning, may our blessing be this. May our words always be inclined towards cooperation and not competition, that we may arrive together to a shared truth, to shared understanding and respect. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.